MIDI knows that just when you thought you had your body all figured out, bam, perimenopause. Suddenly, your hormones are raging like it's puberty round 2. You're waking up at 3 a.m. and dealing with mood swings that have mood swings. Your ears are itchy, your jeans don't fit, you need an industrial-sized fan to cool down, and you've suddenly forgotten the word for microwave. Most women in perimenopause don't know that they are, even though it can last for 10 years. They also don't realize that most of their symptoms are treatable. That's why we built MIDI Health. MIDI is a company built by women who've been through it. Our menopause experts actually listen and treat the real symptoms you're feeling. Your symptoms aren't just common, they're treatable. Schedule a visit with a menopause specialist at MIDI. Visit joinmidi.com. Specialist-led care, virtual visits, insurance eligible. Midlife needs MIDI. Results may vary. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate based on a consultation with a clinician. Insurance coverage varies. Check with your plan for coverage.
This is the Station for Negotiation podcast, episode number 65. My name is Gene Killian. I've been a lawyer and professional negotiator for 40 years. It's April 2022, and Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter. So he offers $54.20 a share, about $44 billion in total, and to make sure he wins the bid, he does something that I'm going to warn you right now never to do. He offers to waive due diligence. No inspection, no kicking the tires, just let's get it done. I'll take your word for it. Let's sign the deal. And of course, Twitter says yes, and the deal is signed. But 3 weeks later, Elon has second thoughts. He wants out. And the reason he grabs for, which is to slow the whole thing down, is the one thing he promised not to do. He says, actually, let me take a look under the hood. So today, I want to talk to you about some bad moves by Elon in this business deal. And also, when you have a strong-willed client who's getting ready to do something that you think is not particularly advisable, how do you talk them out of doing it? A separately interesting topic. And I'm going to take the facts as to the Elon deal from a July 6, 2026 decision from the Northern District of California, the United States District Court for the Northern District of California, in a lawsuit captioned Giuseppe Pampina, Pampena, versus Elon Musk. And for you law nerds, the case number is 22-CV-05937-CRB. And the facts come from an order on post-trial motions following a jury trial. So let's cut to the heart of this. Let me start with the single most useful number I know in the field of negotiation. For every hour you plan to spend at a negotiating table, you should plan to spend 4 hours preparing for the negotiation. 4-1. That is the ratio. You should be able to argue the other side's position better than they can by the time you're done. See, most people have this inverted. They might spend a little time getting ready for the negotiation. Maybe they'll flip through the file. Maybe they'll think if the meeting is in person, then on their drive or their bus ride on the way over to the office, they might think about how the negotiation should go. And they think that that's preparation, but it isn't. Preparation means knowing the other side's numbers better than they do, knowing the walkaway, knowing all of your alternatives, and especially important, knowing the true value of whatever's on the table. It's doing the work before the work. And the reason I open with that rule is because Pampena versus Musk, the court ruling in that case, is what happens when a brilliant, capable person decides that rules don't apply to him. So let's go back again to April 2022. We have this deal. Elon offers $54.20 a share for Twitter, That's a premium, roughly $44 billion, and he waives due diligence. And the court's own words for the resulting agreement is, quote, seller-friendly, close quote. That's being charitable. But let's think for a minute about what waiving due diligence actually means. Due diligence is the preparation. It is the structured 4 hours for every one process of confirming that the thing you think you're buying is actually the thing you think you're buying. When you waive that, when you want to be a cowboy, you're not being bold. You're announcing that you're willing to cut corners, to skip the homework in order to win the bid. So Twitter accepts the deal, as I say, and the deal is announced on April 25th, 2022, and then reality arrives to bite Elon Musk in the ass the way it always does. And the court lays it out plainly. The purchase price was high, and Elon was planning to sell Tesla stock to finance the deal. But unfortunately, the Tesla stock started falling, which meant he would have to sell even more of it to cover the gap. The economics had turned, and suddenly he had buyer's remorse. So what does he decide to do? On May 13, 2022, he tweets that the deal is suddenly on hold until he gets more detail on how Twitter calculates the number of bot and spam accounts on its platform. Now, the reason he grabs to escape the deal is a factual question about the product, which is exactly the kind of question due diligence exists to answer. The very homework that he waived. And the court found two things that matter enormously. First, as the jury found, the deal was not actually on hold. And second, Elon had known about the bot issue since before he even made his offer. That's what the jury found, and the court said there was no reason to overturn that finding. So the preparation he skipped at the beginning of this process did not disappear. It came back as a trap. He waived the right to inspect. Then he tried to inspect his way out, and a jury found that the whole maneuver was a lie, and a lie that actually moved the market. Skipping homework didn't save him time. It cost him a hell of a lot of money in legal fees, and now, eventually, assuming his appeal is rejected, damages, massive damages, as a result of trying to manipulate the market and skip out of the deal. So, lesson number one for today for the Negotiators Notebook, the 4-to-1 rule. Always plan 4 hours of preparation for every hour at the table. Due diligence is preparation in its purest form. Never negotiate and never close until you're fully prepared, because the homework you skip at the start could come back as a crisis at the end. Now, you may say, you're just picking on Elon Musk. Well, I'm not. This pattern repeats itself over and over and over again. And I've seen it in my practice with clients who want to rush to judgment to get a deal done and leave out major investigative process and doing the homework. Let me go to a book here, a book I've cited before. It's a great book. If you can get your hands on it, you should. It's called Done Deal, and it's by Michael Benoliel, Benoliel, with Linda Cashdan, Cashdan. And this is really a great book because it's an interview. Actually, it's a bunch of interviews with experienced negotiators about things that went well and things that went badly in negotiation. And he talks about a situation involving the late Ted Turner. And I want to go to the words in the book because I can't put it better than Michael Benoliel does here. Let's talk about a deal that Ted Turner rushed to finalize in the 1980s, which cost him a lot of money. Here's what Benoliel writes. In the 1980s, Turner Broadcasting Service owner Ted Turner predicted accurately that the broadcasting industry was on the verge of consolidating and would soon be controlled by a few giant corporations. Turner knew that his company was vulnerable because it didn't control much programming like movies, which were the software of the business. Not wanting to get swallowed up by the big players, Turner began talking to the major networks about mergers and started meeting regularly with studio heads like Kirk Kerkorian, the head of MGM United Artists, to explore possible partnerships. Finally, in 1985, Turner made his move. He tried to buy CBS and failed. The loss infuriated him and increased his determination to find a partner. Let me stop there for a moment. Never make business moves based on emotion. And that's what Turner's doing here. His ego got involved. He lost the CBS deal, and he was anxious to make a deal, any deal. Back to the book. A few days later, on July 25, 1985, Kerkorian, a man who knew when the time was ripe to cut a deal, told Turner he was going to put MGM UA up for auction in 2 weeks, but would give Turner first choice. Ted Turner could have the company for $1.5 billion if he closed by August 8th. Taking a step away. Again, this is a pressure move, right? And when someone's putting pressure on you to close, that's the most important time to step back and make sure you have all the facts. Back to the book. Turner immediately dispatched 40 lawyers and accountants to MGM UA to examine the records, and he delivered a euphoric speech to his board about the acquisition's possibilities. TBS had to have this additional program to survive in the industry, he told them. This was their chance to switch from the costly practice of renting films to actually owning them, and MGM owned all the classics. On August 6, 1985, 2 days before the deadline and without any negotiation whatsoever over the price, Turner signed a purchase agreement to buy MGM UA. In his rush to close the deal, Turner paid $200 million to $300 million more than industry analysts thought the company was worth, and he failed to notice that MGM was in a bit of a financial freefall at the time, producing a slew of unpopular, money-losing new films. In addition, Turner's attorneys had failed to ask what recent legal commitments MGM had made, and thus did not uncover the fact that on August 4th, 2 days before the deal was signed, MGM UA had signed a contract with Rainbow Services locking up all cable rights, and that HBO had already contracted to buy several MGM movies at a very advantageous rate. A savvy entrepreneur and forecaster of industry trends, Ted Turner was, alas, not a master negotiator. Do your homework is not only a common parental exhortation, it is the creed of an experienced negotiator. Ted Turner violated the rule of the 5 Ps, taught to former Secretary of State and master negotiator James Baker by his father. Prior preparation prevents poor performance, as well as the 3 Ps that lawyer Johnny Cochran believed held the key to successful advocacy. Preparation, preparation, preparation. Now, I want to be fair and precise because the Elon Musk story and the Ted Turner story are slightly different. Elon waived his protection, waived the right to do his due diligence. Turner engaged the right to do due diligence, but rushed it. He forced his professionals to rush it. He didn't even negotiate the purchase price, which is so crazy. So Turner had the time to value the deal properly, and he let urgency and his ego, his emotion, override it. But the root problem is exactly the same. Both men allowed the other side's clock and their own desire to win, their ego, to substitute for the disciplined work of preparation. Kerkorian, in Turner's case, set the tempo. Buy now before I put this up for auction. And Turner danced to that tune. And when the other side is setting the tempo, that is precisely the moment to slow down, not speed up. I mean, you're looking at this deal, right? $1.5 billion. And this is in the 1980s, so worth a lot more now. You're looking at this deal and you're thinking, this sounds like a late night infomercial. Like, order within the next 10 minutes and we'll throw in Ginsu knives. I mean, what is Ted Turner even thinking? It's so crazy. Anyway, Negotiators Notebook. Remember this, urgency and emotion are the enemies of a good result. Don't rush, slow things down, let the deal come to you. There'll always be another deal. And check yourself, is my ego calling the shots here? Remember, when the other side sets the clock, buy now before it's gone, that pressure is a signal to you to slow down, not to speed up. A deal you want emotionally is the deal you are most likely to misprice. Preparation is what protects you from your own enthusiasm. That is so critically important. Now, here's something that surprises people when I talk about it. But this is my advice to you as someone who's been a negotiator for many years. What you want in a deal is dedication to the deal. I'm going to call that basically D2D, dedication to the deal. You want the other side committed to the deal. So, everything says prepare yourself, do your own due diligence, but there's a flip side. What should you do when the other side offers to waive their due diligence? When they say, the way Elon Musk effectively did, I'm not worried about the details, let's just get this thing closed, I trust you. Your instinct right then might be to celebrate. Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, we got a deal. And this guy's not even going to look for the warts on the deal. He's making it easy. I mean, your impulse is just to take the win. And here's what I'm telling you. Discourage that. I mean it. Slow them down and encourage them to do their homework. Say, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that you trust me, but I want to make sure that you know exactly what you're buying here. Get your professionals in here, look everything over, ask me any questions you have. I want you to be 100% comfortable when you sign on the dotted line. And I have to tell you, I think it's important for you to do your investigation. Please don't rush into this. Now, why in the hell would you do that? Because of my D2D concept, dedication to the deal, a counterparty who has truly done the work, who understands what they're buying, who has looked at, analyzed, and agonized over the numbers and made peace with them, that is a stable and committed counterparty. A counterparty who doesn't do his or her homework is a flight risk. That's what that is. They haven't internalized the facts, which means the moment that reality comes and bites them in the behind, the moment the stock dips or the market turns or the buyer's remorse arrives, they have every psychological reason and will look for a legal opening to bolt. And this is the Elon Musk story from the other side of the table. Twitter got a buyer who waived due diligence, and what looked like a gift became a little bit of a nightmare. I mean, ultimately, Elon has been held liable for what he did, but now you're in the middle of a litigation, which is really expensive and which you want to avoid. So what Twitter got was an undercommitted buyer who, the minute his financing wobbled, went looking for a reason to escape and manufactured one out of the very facts that he had declined to examine. He created the problem. It's a little like that old story of the guy who kills his parents and then asks the court for mercy because he's an orphan, right? So Twitter had to litigate in order to hold Elon to his word. A prepared buyer, a buyer dedicated to the deal because he or she actually understands the deal, is far less likely to become a problem for you. It's why a lot of people will tell you, 2-week free look at, let's say, a subscription website. They want you to be comfortable with the program you're offering so you don't cancel, right? The sophisticated move when the other side wants to skip doing their homework is to generally insist that they do their homework. You're not being generous. You are buying yourself a stable partner and closing off a future escape hatch. The best protection you have against the counterparty's future regret is making sure they have a present understanding. So here's the third lesson today for your negotiator's notebook. A counterparty who skips the work has not truly committed to the deal. I mean, a lot of times people will tell you yes just to make you go away, right? How many times have you said that to a telemarketer? Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, send it over. I'll take a look at it. But you don't want that. You want D2D, dedication to the deal. Dedication to the deal requires a grasp of the facts. So if the other side offers to waive due diligence, you should discourage that. An underinformed I want to say this again because it's so important. An underinformed counterparty is a flight risk who can and will bolt the moment reality arrives. You don't want that. So their present understanding is your best protection against their future regret and a headache. Now, I want to touch one more thing that comes to me from the Elon Musk situation. Keeping your word even when it hurts. There's a famous story about the mobster Sammy the Bull Gravano, and I've read it in several places, so I assume it's true. I mean, Sammy the Bull. He was John Gotti's right-hand man for a while, then turned on him after John Gotti turned on Sammy. And it became, headlines, and there were books written and movies made. But Sammy Gravano, obviously a mobster, he entered into legitimate business deals from time to time. And he had a legitimate business deal in New York. And unfortunately, the deal went sideways. The pricing didn't work out. I forget what happened. Financial projections didn't work out. And his partner, who was a legit businessman, was very worried about ending up at the bottom of Sheepshead Bay. And Sammy said, I need to come see you. Uh-oh. So Gravano shows up, and this business partner thinks he's really in trouble. And Sammy says, okay, put the numbers on the table. How much do I owe you? And the guy said, Sammy, I was worried you were going to be angry with me. And Sammy looked at him and said, look, man, I'm not mad at you. I'm a big boy. I invested money. I knew the risks. I got to keep my word. How much do I owe you? And he paid him exactly what he owed him. Now, I'm not saying this to venerate mobsters or to say that Sammy the Bull is a great guy. I'm just using this example because I read it again recently, and it shows the importance of keeping your word. Because even if you're a gangster, if you go back on your word, or if your legit business partners suddenly start disappearing, people aren't going to want to do business with you anymore. So let me turn from preparation to the idea of keeping your word. And I want to state this principle in its hardest form. Anybody can keep their word when it's convenient or profitable. The only test that means anything is whether you keep your word when it hurts to do so. Now, in this case, the Elon Musk case, the remorse was real. I grant that 100%. We've all made deals that were awful. The price was high, his financing was falling apart, and the deal legitimately got worse after he signed it. Those are big problems. But here's the line from the court's opinion in the court case that I would put on the wall. The court wrote, buyer's remorse is not an exception to the securities laws. Repeat that again. Buyer's remorse is not an exception to the securities laws. Regret is not a release. The fact that a deal turned out badly for you does not entitle you to try to lie your way out of it. And this is the part that should sting for any of us who advise deal makers. Elon Musk had honest exits available. He could have gone back to Twitter and said, we need to renegotiate this. They might have said no, but you never know until you ask. If there was a genuine contractual out that he had negotiated into the contract, he could have relied on that. Or he could have absorbed the loss and closed the deal. It would have been expensive and painful, but it would have been clean and it would have shown integrity. Any of those options would have kept his word or would have broken it honestly and paid the honest price. But instead, at least according to this court decision, and again, I'm saying I'm just relying on the facts in the court decision. Don't know what's going to happen on appeal. But if the court decision is correct, he chose the dishonest exit, a manufactured pretext. And that choice is what converted a bad business deal into a fraud verdict. The lie cost him more than the deal ever could have. And that's the lesson here. Strictly practical. Your word is the only asset you carry from one negotiation to the next. And my friend, word gets around. The counterparty across the table today is talking to other people in your market tomorrow. Keeping your word when it's expensive is what makes you someone worth dealing with the next time and the time after that. Break your word when it's costly. You might win this round, but you might lose the game. So, lesson 4 for your negotiator's notebook. Your word is only worth something when it's expensive to keep, right? Anyone honors a commitment when it's easy. Integrity is what you do when the deal has turned against you. Honest exits, such as renegotiating openly, invoking a contractual clause, or absorbing the loss, those preserve your word or break it cleanly. A dishonest exit can turn a bad deal into a financial catastrophe, worse than the deal itself, right? Now, that brings me to the final area I want to talk about, which may be what a lot of you have been actually waiting for. It's fine for me to say, prepare properly and keep your word. But many of you, like me, advise the exact kind of client who doesn't want to hear that. The founder, the deal maker, the entrepreneur, the second generation company owner. Oh my God, you know how they are. The strong-willed, wildly successful person who has set the clock himself, who's certain he's right. He's always right. Smartest guy in the room. And he did not hire you to be told no. So how do you move that person? How do you deal with that person? How do you advise that person properly? Let's start with what clearly doesn't work. Telling them they're wrong does not work with this kind of person. The moment you say, this is a mistake, you have triggered the defensiveness of someone whose whole identity is built on being right more often than everyone else, on being the smartest person in the room, or at least having everyone tell him or her that they're the smartest person in the room. You'll be dismissed, worked around, or replaced. Being correct is not the same as being persuasive, and with this kind of client, being correct while sounding like an obstacle will get you nowhere. So here are a couple of ideas. First of all, don't argue the decision with this kind of person. Illuminate the potential cost. Your job is not to say, don't do this. Your job is to make the price of the choice vivid and specific for your client or your employer or your partner or whoever you're advising. You don't say, I think this is risky. You say, here's the number that's going to happen if the financing moves against us. And here's what it looks like if you try to walk. Show him or her the numbers. Don't scold. You're not scolding. You're just showing him or her the numbers. Second, and this is really important, don't be lengthy. Be focused and be brief. People like this, strong-willed clients who think they're the smartest person in the room, they have no patience for 10-page memos with all sorts of potential outcomes and anxiety. The most you can give them, and I'm being serious now, is 1 page with maybe 3 bullet-pointed risks with dollar figures attached to each. These people want conciseness and they respect numbers, so speak in both. And by the way, the discipline of getting your arguments onto 1 page will force you to know which risks actually matter. This is interesting because it made me think, when I was writing this out, it made me think of something. I worked for a firm many years ago, like in the 80s. And we were a litigation firm based in New Jersey, but we had a case in California. And so we were litigating this case in California, and there was some kind of motion, and the partner I was working for wrote this beautiful, lengthy brief. It was like 60 pages long. And he gave it to me and he said, look, read this over, site check everything, check for grammar, and then send it to California Counsel and get it filed. Okay. So I send it to California Counsel, I get it filed, and it turns out that while his 60 pages of eloquence and brilliance were wonderful, this particular California court had a 20-page limit on briefs, and it was unbreakable. You could not write and say, hey, I really need permission to file 60 pages because the issues here are complicated. No. This court had a rule, 20 pages. So I go back to the partner and I tell him the problem, and the guy just got aggravated and angry at me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't tell him to go write the brief. So he says, do whatever you have to do to get this into shape. So I took the brief and I sat down and I started cutting mercilessly. And I got it down to 20 pages. And I have to tell you, and this is not a pat on the back to myself, it read so much more crisply and better. And it was his language. I didn't write the language. I just condensed it. And I think we actually won that motion. So, the discipline of getting something down to the shortest length possible is something you should train yourself to do. It's like Mark Twain once wrote. I think it was Mark Twain. He said, I would have written you a shorter letter if I'd had more time. So be focused, be brief. Third thing I would tell you is use their own framing. Use their own framing. Don't position yourself against the win they're chasing. Position yourself as the person protecting the win that they're chasing. Not, here's why your deal is bad, but here's what you can do to make sure the deal doesn't blow up. Think of yourself not as the brake, but as the seatbelt in this car, right? And fourth, and it's a shame I have to say this, but I do. But you know what they tell fighters when they're in the ring just before the match starts? The referee looks at both of them and says, protect yourself at all times. Protect yourself at all times. We live in a crazy world where you can sue a ham sandwich. And people get fired right and left. It's just the world we live in. So this is non-negotiable. Document your advice in writing. If you tell a client to do proper due diligence or not to send a tweet or to walk away from a deal, and they overrule you because they're smarter, the written record will later matter enormously because a lot of the time these guys can't accept and gals can't accept responsibility. So guess who they're going to blame? You. They're going to blame you. So the written record can matter enormously. And frankly, it protects them because it forces a real decision rather than a careless one. And it protects you when the thing that you warned about actually comes to pass. And I have to conclude that somebody somewhere was in the room when Elon Musk decided to waive due diligence and later when he decided to hit send on the tweet saying the deal was on hold. The advisor who puts their concerns in writing will still be standing afterward. So here's lesson 5 for your negotiator's notebook today. You can't tell a strong-willed client they're wrong. You have to show them the cost. So don't argue the decision. Illuminate the price to your client in one focused page, 3 risks with dollar figures attached. Frame yourself as protecting the win, not opposing it, as the seatbelt, not the brake. And always, always, always document your advice in writing because that protects the client and it protects you. Now, I want to close with some very profound words from a source you might not expect. I want to quote one of the greatest karate masters of all time, Gichin Funakoshi, in his book, The 20 Guiding Principles of Karate, The Spiritual Legacy of the Master. And I want you to think about what he's saying here. It's a short passage, but it goes directly to what we're talking about. And here's what Funakoshi writes. Carelessness, a great enemy. The flames leap higher and higher. This admonition can be applied to many facets of life. 99% of traffic accidents are due to carelessness. At work, a bit of sloppiness can undo exhaustive research and preparation, resulting in inconsistencies or an inability to obtain anticipated results. The same is true in war, whether in a battle involving armies or in individual combat. Careless preparation or outright negligence is a clear formula for disaster. To prevent our efforts from going up in flames, we should constantly examine our actions and be cautious about our methods, being ever mindful that calamity springs from carelessness. Calamity springs from carelessness, a rule that Elon Musk should have followed. And folks, that's all I have for you today. So this is Gene Killian from the Station for Negotiation signing off and reminding you once again that negotiation is life. Hey, thanks for listening to the Station for Negotiation podcast. Until next time, you can keep up with us on social media at the following places. On X, formerly known as Twitter, it's at STN4Negotiation. That's at STN4Negotiation. On Facebook, you can hit us up at facebook.com/Station4Negotiation pod. That's facebook.com/Station4Negotiation pod. Over on Instagram, you can reach us at Station4Negotiation. Again, that's at Station4Negotiation. On LinkedIn, Station4Negotiation podcast. Again, that's Station4Negotiation podcast. Over on YouTube, we're at Station4Negotiation. That's at Station4Negotiation. If you want to shoot us an email, you can do that at Station4Negotiationpod@gmail.com. That's Station4Negotiationpod@gmail.com. So we'll see you next time on the Station for Negotiation podcast. And until then, remember, negotiation is life.
You know that music? That's the sound of shopping for car insurance the old way. Life's too short for that. Jerry makes car insurance easier. Open the app, answer a few questions, and Jerry pulls up to 20 quotes from top insurers. Then choose and switch right in the app. No re-entering your information. No saxophone solos. And Jerry keeps checking rates for you. So you're not back on hold 6 months from now. Visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today.